Why do we understand so little about how our brain recognizes and have difficulty developing robots that interact with us in our environment in a natural way? McCulloch-Pitts neurons are the core assumption of biological neurons computations and model of AI computation since their introduction in 1943. This is a simple model boiling down neurons to weights and sum, and inputs multiply through. How particular weights come into existence is not a trivial question, nor is what are correct weights, or how to obtain them. Obtaining weights have led to developments of various fields which use the same McCulloch-Pitts assumption. In neuroscience, there's a belief that neurons connect in a simple way. What fires together wires together, hypothesized by Hebb at the end of the 1940s. It was quickly realized that this strategy does not work in the long term. Weights could become too strong, so mechanisms were designed to normalize weights. But normalized weights do not necessarily create useful functionality. So within computer science, more complex algorithms with mechanisms such as cost functions were designed, creating AI with weights that do useful work. This approach has been successful and allows computer to do amazing things, but learning through cost functions is not flexible as the brain. It requires huge amounts of data and requires patterns to be presented in certain ways that are not natural. It is not possible to learn data in a lifelike way in which it appears within the environment as a human can. Instead, data has to be effectively stored, shuffled, and randomized like a deck of cards by casino dealers into batches and epochs. For example, to add new data to the network, this data has to be shuffled and rehearsed with all the old data and shuffled examples repeated over and over again until the network learns. After learning the previous data, any additional new pieces of data that pop into the environment require this reshuffling to be repeated again from the beginning with the old and new information. Such a system cannot update as the information naturally occurs. This is why through today's AI, we can't have robots that flexibly interact with us in our environment. Not only has strong evidence supporting these cost functions in the brain not been found, neither has the required rehearsal mechanisms. Thus, without explicitly implementing this rehearsal within neurons, using McCulloch-Pitts neurons as a model of the brain is like shoving a casino into the neurons. So what's missing? Clues exist which suggest McCulloch-Pitts neurons may not exist in isolation, instead are in a delicate excitation-inhibition balance that is found throughout the brain. Moreover, neurons are regulated through presynaptic processes governing homeostatic plasticity. Whew! This means that inputs are adjusted based on outputs. In studies on homeostatic plasticity, this was revealed by making, for example, the output neurons fire stronger. What's been found is that over time, input neurons fire less. They are regulated in a way where the presynaptic or input neuron must know about the postsynaptic or output neuron in order to balance signaling. Moreover, a concert of internal neuron machinery may interchangeably contribute to this regulation, thus must be very important for the neural system. So maybe the core computational unit is not a McCulloch-Pitts neuron, but a combination of postsynaptic neurons coupled to presynaptic neurons in a regulatory way. And this feedback has a prominent role in real-time processing. This is what my research is about. Complex networks can be formed through this core configuration as long as balanced forward and backward connections are satisfied. For example, if you have another output neuron, then it not only receives its input connection, but also projects a connection to regulate the input. Likewise, if you have another input neuron, it not only connects to its associated output, but also gets regulated by its associated output. When recognition networks have a self-regulating core, Hebbian learning is all that's needed. No shuffling, no cost functions, not even normalizing weights. They get normalized by the feedback. Moreover, unlike McCulloch-Pitts based artificial neural networks, with regulatory feedback it's possible to learn or add new information without changing unrelated weights. With this configuration, you can also see new brain-like phenomena like network-wide bursting. This occurs when you record neurons or brain regions and present a new input stimulus. You see initially a network-wide increase of activation that then calms down. Moreover, you also see brain phenomena like difficulty with similarity and speed accuracy trade-off without any additional design. Difficulty with similarity is observed when brains recognize between patterns in a cluttered environment, and the patterns vary by similarity. It is easier for us to recognize different patterns, like to find X within O's, than similar patterns, like to find F within E's. Moreover, if we are forced to make a decision quick with more difficult patterns, we will make more mistakes. This is called speed accuracy trade-off, and it happens in all other modalities, including sound and smell as well. The regulatory feedback model inherently shows difficulty with similarity, speed accuracy trade-off. And to demonstrate this, I sort data that the network learned to recognize into pairs and calculate how similar the pairs are, how much they vary from each other. I present one, then quickly switch to the other and see how long it takes to recognize. When you look at the graph, the more similar the pair is, the longer it takes to recognize. This curve represents a speed accuracy trade-off because if you force decisions by a certain amount of time, as is represented by the blue line, you are more likely to get errors on the harder pairs, which did not get time to complete. You even see other phenomena such as asymmetry or pop-out, which I won't get into in this video, but is the outlier point. And if you did this with McCulloch-Pitts neurons, you would not get a difference with similarity. It takes the same amount of time because you multiply the inputs times the weights. So you don't have speed accuracy trade-off. You would have to build additional mechanisms to try to emulate difficulty with similarity and speed accuracy trade-off beyond the native model, in addition to cost functions and shuffling. Thus, not only does regulatory feedback avoid modeling complications, it natively shows multiple phenomena that McCulloch-Pitts neural networks do not. So this is a very promising approach forward towards understanding the brain. If you appreciate this content and want to see more, please support by watching, subscribing, and contributing, whether through making suggestions on improving the videos, helping them go viral. Thank you.